All right, now let's talk about our ampules. So our ampules, as you can see here, the big pack in the back is going to be your back bar size, so that's going to be in clinic. And then this little pack here, your 3-pack, is going to be your home care or your retail. I want you to think about your ampules. If a toner and a serum had a baby, that's what the ampules are. Okay? It makes sense, right? All right, I'm getting there. That's how I remember things. Now you're understanding how my brain works. It's a little scary, but we get there. All right. So, but I like to tell people this because it helps people understand where the ampules fall in their home care application. So where does a toner always go? First. After cleansing, right? Goes on first. So your ampules are going to go on first. All right. So why it's like a toner is when we look at the base of all of our ampules, and we have one more. We have a third ampule I'll get to in a minute. But the base of our ampules are very toner-like. They're going to be a blend of sodium hyaluronate, which is a high molecular weight hyaluronic acid. And what do we know that hyaluronic acid does? What does it do? Binds moisture, right? So high weight molecular HA holds up to about 1,000 times its weight in water. So back when I worked with, when I was teaching for another skincare company, I got to go and work in the lab for a day. I got to like put the hairnet on and the coat, and I was like, look at me, I'm important, and like took pictures. But I got raw HA in a powder form, and just to like give me a visual, I mean, I literally got like maybe that much, and I put it in a cup of water, and I blended it with a hand blender, and within a second, the whole thing was a solid gel. Like that's how much it binds moisture and how little is needed. So when you do high weight, up to 1,000 times its weight in water. So very, very high weight. That's why we know it kind of acts like a toner, right? So it's binding moisture to the skin. It's also going to allow products to penetrate deeper into the skin. The other base to it is going to be sodium PCA. Sodium PCA is a great skin conditioner and skin hydrator. So I want you to think about, you know, why this is so important going on the skin. Think wet sponge, dry sponge analogy, all right? If I, for whatever reason, took my glass of water and dumped it on the table, and then the people from the boulevard are like, we got it, and they come in, one person has a wet sponge and one person has like the dried up gnarled sponge from under the sink, which sponge do you think is going to absorb water the fastest? The wet or the dry?
The dry.
The wet sponge, it's already wet, it's ready to go. The dry sponge has to rehydrate and then it can start to absorb. Whereas the wet sponge, it's ready to rock. Your skin's the same way. If we have a little bit of hydration laid down first, whatever we put on top, it's going to suck in better. All right? So when we look at our HydroCalming Vit, the base of it is going to be mostly sodium hyaluronate. There's going to be a little bit of sodium PCA, but mostly sodium hyaluronate. So it's a beautiful hyaluronic acid-based serum, kind of acts like a toner. But then we fortified it with a couple of different algae extracts. We have one algae extract that comes from the spirulina, a blue-green algae, and then we have another algae that's a green seaweed algae. And both of them together, powerful antioxidants. I don't know why, but people sleep on this ampule all the time. It is my favorite. Because like I said, when I do my treatments in New York, I go pretty hard. I'm like, we're gonna layer you, we're gonna microneedle you, we're gonna, you know, I'm like, we do all the things. I'm like an everything bagel. We're doing it all, right? And I love this at the end because I can take their inflammation down like that and it feels like a hug on their skin. It's really, really hydrating and it's really, really calming and soothing. Then we have our Lift and Whitening Peptide Complex. This is going to be a beautiful blend of sodium PCA and sodium hyaluronate. So texture-wise, you're going to notice this one feels a little bit more serum-like. This one is a little bit less dense. And that's because of the sodium PCA in there. But this is going to have a number of different peptides in there. We have oligopeptides to help fight hyperpigmentation. Then we have pentapeptides, tetrapeptides to stimulate collagen production. So here, like the name implies, lift and whitening, I would show this to anti-aging, hyperpigmentation, goes very nicely. Now, the one thing with our ampules, you are going to have to physically show people how to open these every single time. When I first got this job, Aran and Masha are some of the most generous people I've ever met. And so it was like my first day of work and I worked a trade show in Vegas. And I was like, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm like out there doing my thing. And they gave me a whole box of product. And so, of course, the therapist and me, I go up to my hotel room that night. What do you think I do? All the things, all at once, right? And I get to the ampules and I'm like, cool. And I'm like, squeezing it. And I wound up getting scissors and I cut the thing. It was like insane. It was like I couldn't figure out, and I had to go down the next day and look at my CEO in the face. I'm like, how do you open this? I'm like, do I still have a job now? Because and he was like, you're totally fine. So always go over how to open this. You're gonna hold it at its base. You're gonna rock it to side. You're gonna hear some snaps. This one's already been opened. The lid comes off. I know. And once you do that, people are like, oh my God, you know? Then, don't squeeze it. You're gonna hold it. Some people hold it like a syringe. Some people hold it with their thumb, whatever's comfortable for you. But there's a little push button on the bottom and it drops out that way. All right. Once this is open, it's going to be good for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. If they're using it day and night, they're probably going to be done in about a week and a half. But keep the cap and then they can put it on their shelf. 4 drops. Forehead, chin, cheek, that's enough. They're gonna do neck and décolleté. Obviously, they're gonna up that more and they're gonna go through this a lot faster. But like I said, this is gonna go on right after they cleanse, prior to any of the other serums that we just discussed. In the treatment room, this can go on directly after a peel. It can go on after a microneedle. Right now, we don't have them sterilized for microneedling itself. If you're micro-channeling anything less than a 0.3, that's fine. Anything deeper than a 0.3, we are working on having them sterilized by hopefully next year. And then that way you can actually microneedle at a deeper depth with them. But we're working on that. But as for right now, they can go on immediately after. And again, they cast a beautiful net onto the skin and they slide down those channels really, really nicely.